Let me say, hey, you know, tell me where to go and I'll go there. This was the first place I could think of. And so it seems okay to me for data that's not going to change. I don't believe that the list of counties in Mississippi is a hot button topic that we're going to see a lot of vandalism on the page or people adding special counties that don't exist or changing the format of it very much. So that's what I did. I just went and I grabbed a list of counties, and now I come back here and I say, okay, this is my cases by county. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to merge the two. So I'm going to match up my county name with the county that I got. I do a fuzzy nested join. Power BI lets you do a fuzzy nested join. What that means is that through some algorithm, I have no idea what the algorithm is, but let's just say it's like a Soundex. Anybody's familiar with the Soundex algorithm that sort of strips out the vowels and looks at the consonants and says C and S are probably the same and K and C are probably the same. And it gives you a Soundex name, and so it matches it that way. It strips out the spaces, it strips out the punctuation, and just says which one of these two are kind of close. And so I form a join on that. And then let's see if I can walk us down to see where we are right here. So I take what was my dirty county names, my not yet to be cleaned county names, and then I merge the tables, and I'm left with my clean county names. The reason why you want to do this is that your visualization tool, if it can use some sort of a identifier like county name and state, it's going to need to have that county name spelled correctly. It's going to need to have it on a consistent basis with something. It's worked out with me so far that the Wikipedia stuff I've done has been consistent, so that's why I worked with that.
Andy, you have a question.
Yes. What's the hashtag doing in the code?
Like it says like a hashtag removed columns.
Ah, oh, right here. Okay. In Power BI doesn't like in Power BI. This is how you would refer to a step over here. So Power BI uses M, which is a functional language. So if I go to the advanced editor, which is geeking out everybody, this is the underlying code behind this. We see that the best way to look at this is to start at the bottom and go up. So we want to end with change type 3. Well, change type 3 is table transform column types of rename columns 3 and doing this. Well, rename columns 3 is just this step. And it refers to replace value, which is this step. And it refers to filtered rows, which is this step, and on and on. So if your variable has a space in it, then it has to be quoted, and it has to have the pound sign in front of it, the hashtag, the octothorpe, if you will, right there. If I wanted to, I could not. If there are no spaces, then I don't have to do that. I can just say contents and contents and source and data 0 and data 0. So the hashtag isn't anything special. It's just hashtag quotes is how M knows that's going to be a column. It's going to be a step in the steps. See, these are my applied steps. Remove columns 2 is the step right above where I am right now. So perform this function on this step with these parameters. So that's where that is.
Is it similar to the square parenthesis in SQL? Like when you have space, you just put a square parenthesis, square brackets?
Yes. Yes. All right. So we've done that. We've done that. Are there any questions so far other than that? This is looking great. So really for everything else, I just kind of did a bunch of the same cases by county. One thing I wanted to do was, there's a couple other places you can look for data. So one of them is covidtracking.com. They have an API that hits up the states. So you just document up to there. You convert it to a table. You do all the Power BI things, which aren't really interesting. And this gives you every state, and they're positive. I'm not sure what all these are because I haven't looked. But it gives you lots of different information. I believe covidtracking.com is all crowdsourced. So each of these, there's a date modified, is because somebody has said, you know, Frank from Colorado has said, I will make sure that I link up the data every day at some certain time. And so Frank from Colorado does this one at 4 o'clock or 4 o'clock Zulu time, which is, I don't know, midnight Eastern or something. That's when it's done. One thing is, it gives me the states by their 2-letter postal code. Well, I don't know 2-letter postal codes, or at least Power BI doesn't know 2-letter postal codes. When I go to do all of this, when I go to plot everything, visualize everything, 2-letter postal codes aren't going to help me. So what I did was I reached out once again to Wikipedia and got my list of US states and abbreviations. I extract that table. I do some fancy schmancy sanitizing and getting it all ready to go. I filter down just the stuff I care about. And I say, okay, this is now my source this is my lookup table of 2-letter codes to the names. Power BI lets you either load it or not load it. So I don't have to load this every time. Whenever I refresh, I don't have to refresh this table because this table's not going to change. Same with the Louisiana counties, Louisiana parishes, Mississippi counties, Texas counties. I don't have to look that up every time. I can say refresh all the data set that needs to be refreshed, and it will know, well, he doesn't want to refresh this. I can refresh it if I want to, but barring adding another state to the union, we're not going to do that. Now I can take that, and you see at the end of it, where was COVID tracking? I was here. I merged my queries. I joined the codes and abbreviations. And so now I've added this column right here. I expand it. And because I only care about 4 states, I say Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas. I just do that. And then I play around with it a bit to get it to look like what I'm looking for at the end, which is all of this. If you want to, there's pivoting and unpivoting are really great things. I'm sure that you can do this in Tableau somehow. But right now, everything is 1 row per state. And I want to get 1 row per statistic and 1 column per state. So to do that, I have to sort of change the way things are. I have to turn rows to columns and columns to rows. So I wind up unpivoting the other columns. I say date modified, name and status of a region, unpivot on those. So these will be my 2 columns. And then take the other things I care about and add it, make it attribute and value. So that's attribute and value. Now I clean that up a little bit. And I say, okay, now let's add a new thing because I want stuff to be named a certain way. So I don't want my statistic to just be positive. I want it to be presumptive positive test results. That way it'll line up with some other data I have. I'm okay with negative being negative because I'm going to throw that out anyway. But I want death to be deaths. I want total to be tests completed. And so I have my little if, then, if, then, if, then, if, then, else. Leave it alone. I filter out all the things I don't care about, or rather, I leave in all the things I care about. And I remove that other column. Now I'm going to pivot. So I unpivoted here. I'm going to pivot here. So I turn my pivoting turns rows into columns and columns into rows. Right now I have one state per row. And my statistics there. I'm going to pivot here, and I have my statistics on each row and each state as a column. And then I just type it all up. What I do here, the reason I do all of this, these are my statistics. So I join in these statistics in the back. I take the statistics that each state has reported to me. I take the statistics from Johns Hopkins and the statistics from COVID tracking and merge them all together. I'd say, what's the highest of everybody? That way, if one of the data sets jumps out, if Louisiana doesn't have a new update, if Arkansas on one day says, hey, let's stop that for a while, then I can say, okay, let's fill in those holes some other way. And it gets that. So if you look at stats rather, my source is I start off with taking Louisiana stats, Mississippi stats, Arkansas stats, and Texas stats, and Johns Hopkins stats. And then I just do a bunch of stuff to, at each point, pivot them, because eventually this is how I want it to look, with each statistic on a row and each state on a column. And then I start walking around by saying, you know, let's compare Johns Hopkins, Louisiana and Johns Hopkins, and regular Louisiana, see who's got what of what, see who's got the highest of the two, and we'll add a new column. That column's going to be MLA, which is like the mashup of Louisiana. And then we'll sort of bring that over, and that's now Louisiana. And we do the same thing here and the same thing there. Now we say, okay, now let's add on COVID tracking, let's expand that out, and do the same thing here. And eventually we wind up right here. So that was all fine and great. I'm going to close this without applying it because I don't think I made any changes. I am going to now reopen this. Now the way that this is called a choropleth, which is a great word. If you like great words, choropleth, it means a filled map. If I use just a regular map, a shape map, then it's going to give me a lot of dots or nothing. That's the other option it could give you, is nothing. But it's just going to give me a lot of dots. You've seen the visualization with a lot of dots. I'm not crazy about that one. I like this filled map. Power BI lets you do tooltips, and you can define whatever you want to there. So let's say Cameron, Louisiana. I can highlight it. If I hover over it, it's going to tell me the cases, the deaths. If I want to change the colors, I go to data colors. There's a little functiony thing. And so I say, you know, show me at least one. Here's a color if it's, if it's not much, starting to get a lot, and then, wow, that's a bunch. You tell them what it is, and it will go all in there. There's lots of different ways you can do it. I'm sure that Tableau has a similar thing, or Grafana, or Alteryx, or any other visualization. It's going to let you do a choropleth like this. All right. Well, that is how you can find. So let me just recap the big important thing. And I was amazed the first time I found out about this. I was watching a YouTube video of somebody doing something neat, and he did this, and it never occurred to me that you could do this. So you're on a website, you're trying to get the info from a Tableau visualization, and you want to get the data straight from it. You open up your DevTools, refresh the page, go to Network, refresh the page, and you're going to want to start searching for the data you care about. So you want JSON data. A lot of stuff is going to be JSON. It's right here. The way that I found it's best to do is you pick a number, like 28,000, and you start clicking around, looking at the preview and features. I found that Tableau uses the features. So you start hunting around, pecking around, trying to find where's that number you're going to find. And eventually you'll hit it. You'll start seeing some numbers, and it'll be like, ah, there it is. So you'll find it, and then you'll take this, you'll copy the link address, you'll take it over to your visualization tool of choice, and you'll paste it there and do it. Similarly, with your tables, you'll import the tables. You want to make sure that you match up location name with the actual location name. So if you're doing this by counties, then you want to say county, get a list of counties and match them up that way. One place I'm finding this happening a lot is states will they'll list things that aren't counties along with their county data. So they'll say, here's Louisiana. We'll say, here are the list of all 64 parishes and all their numbers, and Angola Prison, and Arterial Wildlife Reserve, and other, and unknown. Whenever you're going to visualize things that have noise like that, like the other, or a prison, or a university that's listed in there, what Power BI does is it highlights the whole state and sort of says, I can't match that location, but I can match that location on a county, on a parish level, but I can match it on a state level. So let me just highlight the whole state. So your whole state becomes orange or green or whatever color you want. And it looks weird, and it's not what you want. So if you can say, I'm going to show this on a county level, and maybe I'll handle that information some other way. Maybe I'll show on a different graph, on a different visualization, I'll include it under here as to what the other is. Or if there's, like if Louisiana had broken out LSU, then maybe I would take that LSU number and I roll it up into EBR and say, okay, these are the EBR numbers, if I can make sure that they weren't double dipping. But I would handle it that way. All right. The map is done in ArcGIS. Yes. Patricia Soto has just told me that the map is done in ArcGIS, which is true. The URL is from an ArcGIS URL. So I'm not sure exactly, does that mean that Tableau is tied to the ArcGIS there? I don't know. I don't use Tableau. I'm not a Tableau user. Someone more familiar with Tableau would know the answers to those questions. I just know that when I was building this is what I found out. And it reminded me that a lot of people don't know that you can go into the back end and hunt out these endpoints and hit them up directly. I know I didn't know that until I knew it, until I found it out. It's like, I've never had a blueberry donut until I had my first one. So there's always a time to learn something. All right, are there any other questions? It looked like the color scale was set from 0 to 1,000 with 500 as the midpoint. Is that static, or can I update it as I want to? Yes. In fact, I can. Let me go back over here. In fact, I did have to early on, because early on, everything was 0. So I said, okay, I'll make 50. I said that I started out with something like this. And if you do something like that, then you notice, oh my God, it looks like the end is nigh. But you say, okay, well, let's try to, as the numbers come in here, let's sort of change them up like that and make it a little bit better. Or you could say, let's make it even nicer. But I don't know how useful that is. So I think there's some judgment involved in all of this. You have to decide sort of what's good and what's bad. But you're building this visualization, so you have to decide what's good and what's bad. There's no.
So can it work based on like a maximum value based on data, which is the dynamic way, versus if you have to go back and fix this a high square like that? That answers the question.
Yeah. So for a while I did that too. What was happening was you got something like this where, and this was even before
The distribution.
very early on, it was just Orleans and Jefferson Parish. They were dark. Everything else was super light because it hit so early, so quick on these two parishes that everything else in the whole map was done for. So yes, you absolutely can do it that way. And that's just this one visualization. There are lots of other visualizations, and this is just Power BI, so there's other things like that. You do for max, and then center is the max over 2. Let's see what center middle value. Yeah, so that's going to be max over 2.
So Kristen, does that answer your question as well?
Yes, great. Yeah, so you definitely could do that. I chose not to do that because it seemed that the max value was so much higher than anywhere else. So I sort of saw that as an outlier early on. I have these two parishes that are far and away higher than anything else. So if I just say high, low, mid, middle is halfway there, it doesn't quite grasp what I was trying to do.
All right. There's one question from Mike. Mike, do you want to ask the question? Okay, I'll ask for him. He's asking if anyone know a good data resource for the pace of reopening and restrictions each state is in.
That's a great question. I have no idea.
Anybody else?
The best one I've found so far is New York Times, but that's it.
New York Times, okay. Well, if anybody come across anything, can you share it with Mike, please?
Yes.
That's it.
Or at Red Stick Data, and we'll share it. We'll post it on the website.
Yeah, there's a response from Daniel. Mike.
Oh, let's take a look at that while we're right here. Let's get rid of that. Hey, look at that. I don't know what any of this.
Y'all are awesome.
Yes. And you know what? This looks like it's got the ArcGIS, so we could reach in the back end of it and maybe get some data in there. Maybe not. Oh, well, maybe I have to refresh the page again. Oh yeah, this looks like it's going on. Yeah. So I can go here and I can start poking around and say, look at my features, my attributes. I look at some fields, see what's going on, and maybe it's not query, but maybe it's something else, and fiddle around and start looking for interesting things like that. So all the data that's feeding this is coming from right back here. This is great. We'll post a link of this on the website, coronavirus.astho.hub.arcgis.com. Association of State and Territorial Health Officials, ASTHO. Great. Well, asked and answered. That seems like a wonderful answer. Good job, Daniel Schroeder. All right. If there is nothing else, then I will open it back up for anybody to say anything about anything. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Andy.
I'm going to stop share right now.
Anybody has any more questions for Andy? Good job, man. Awesome. Okay, so doesn't sound like anybody has any questions. So before we conclude, I was going to ask, like, we might have at least another meeting online. So this was a trial run. I think it went all right. Do you all have any more recommendations, ideas, improvements for the next time? Except that I forgot to record this. Of course, I recorded the last 15 minutes. So we got the meat of Andy's presentation. So I'll post it online. Glad you repeated that, Andy. Has anyone taken a new DA 100 exam? Okay, Corey says you can set it to auto record. I'll do that next time. Anybody has an answer for Sean? I didn't do it, man.
Is the DA 100, does that replace something else or is that brand new?
It replaces something. I can't find out.
Oh,
what
that
it
looks like
replaces.
the 72979. Did I just make that number up?
Maybe, but I know they just opened it up. I'm trying to study for it.
So the way that they're doing betas testing now is different than they used to. It used to be free for the beta and you got what you got. Now they're charging you, God, like 20% of a full price, but they refund it after you take it, something like that. I don't know if they refund it or not. Maybe I'm making that part up. I know they charge you something because so many people were signing up to take the beta tests and not taking them at all. And so they weren't getting the data they wanted from the beta test. So now they charge you something, but I heard that you get something refunded. Maybe they charge you and they refund you 80%. I don't know exactly how it works. That's a very long way of saying no. I have not taken the DA 100 or looked at it very much.